パキスタン人？
はい。
パキスタン人はね。
パキスタン人ですよ。でも今、イギリス在住ですけど、もう完全なムスリムですね。
パキスタン人はね、イスラム教徒なんですよ。
はい。
で、ブッドがね、非常に立派な人で、で、この人は、イギリスに留学してて、それで2回首相やって2度目の首相の時に暗殺されちゃったんですね。で、この人、娘の方はね、50歳で殺されちゃったの。で、この国はね、
じゃあ、私のスポンサーの人より年下ぐらい。多分知ってて、同じやっぱり、ケンブリッジに留学して。
友達？
私のスポンサーっていうか、パートナーの一番の方です。
それでね、ブッドが変わった人でね、イスラム教ってのはもう、民主主義は絶対合わないのね。で、パキスタンはトライバルエリアって山岳地帯でアフガニスタンもそうだけど管理できない地域がある。で、そこにアフガニスタンタリバンが拠点を設けてるんですよ。で、ブッドはね、そのアフガニスタンタリバンを支援してきたのね。で、タリバンって二つあってね、アフガニスタンタリバンっていうのと、パキスタンタリバンって二つあって、パキスタンタリバンっていうのは、ブッドだけじゃなくて、パキスタンの政府は、彼らをね、敵対関係にあるのね。
同じタリバンで
も。同じタリバンだと。で、アフガニスタンはもう終わったんだけど、アフガニスタンのタリバンっていうのは、ロシアが撤退した後、アメリカの 9.1 で占領するまでは、タリバンがパキスタンを政治をやってたのね。で、タリバンについては、もうちょっと僕はもっと勉強してもいいと思ってるんだけど、本当はタリバンってね、悪くないんだと思うんですよ。で、それはね、アメリカはね、タリバンもそうだけど、アフガニスタンもそうだけど、イエメンもそうだけど、リビアもそうだけど、カダフィもね、みんな悪くしちゃうんですよ。で、政治的に殺しちゃうんですね。で、アフガニスタンも今回トランプが、選挙やる前は、アフガニスタンを撤退するって言ったんだけど、結局3000人、4000人派遣することを決めて送ったんですね。それがアフガニスタンのタリバンに対抗するためにやったんだけど、タリバンは、アフガニスタンの国土のほとんどを占領してて、アメリカ軍がどんな風に頑張っても、占領できないんですね。だけどパキスタンは、アフガニスタンタリバンを支援してるんですよ。支援してるっていうか、ここの今の、これアフガニスタンですけど、上の方あるでしょ？これトラベルエリアで山岳地帯なんですね。こっちがアフガニスタンで、これが中国ですね。これインドですね。で、トライバルエリア。で、ここはね、山岳地帯で政府も入れないんですね。で、あと、もともとアフガニスタンってのは汚職と麻薬で有名なんで、インドはね、なんか知らないんですけど、最近一生懸命ね、修復してるんですね。で、オサマ・ビンラディン、パキスタンにいたんですね、オサマ・ビンラディンは。で、アフガニスタンのタリバンもそうですけど、アメリカにオサマ・ビンラディンを提供したくないっていうことで、結局関係今良くないんですね。それ以来。ただ、ここで最近ドラスティックに変わってきつつあるのは、China-Pakistan Economic Corridor っていう経済回廊、エコノミックコリドーっていうのはここですね。ガイダル湾に出てくる。ここ湾ですけど、こっちから。ガイダル湾に出てくる、道があるんですけど、中国はワンロードなんだっけ？
ワンベルトワンロー
ド。
ワンベルトワンロード。
ワンなんだっけ？
ワンベルト。
ワンベルトワンロード。 で、パキスタンがカラコルムハイウェイってアラビア海のバーデル湾の3000キロで、中国、パキスタン経済回廊、チャイナ・パキスタンエコノミックコールド、CPEC って言うんですけど、620億ドル。だからこの、
提供しているのが中国なんですね。インフラを建築している、お金出しているのは中国になる、ね。
中国ですよね。で、この国っていうのは GDP が1500ドルなんですけども、バングラデシュが1400ドルでも最低の地域ですね。そこに620億ドル出すと、この国 GDP2800 億ドルですから。ところでこれはね、今ね、僕、Facebook のね、僕のね、unno塾のメンバーになると、アップしてるからそっちに見えるんですね。この資料は全部。これ本で実際に出版してて、まだ紙になってませんけど、サウスエイジア、南アジア、サウスエイジア、ミドルイーストって本出版してあるんですけど、それの中ですね。で、これが今、あとは僕の資料っていうのは英語で必ずこうやってパキスタンの概略を書いてるんですけど、これは、日本人が、パキスタンのことについて話をするときに、英語で説明できないんですね。パキスタン人と話するときに。それで、これデモクラシーですけども、デモクラシーを議論するときに、パキスタンはどういう国なのかっていうのを説明できるように、ほとんどウィキペディアから持ってきてるんですけど、その中から一部僕が、拾ってきて、こうやって英語で貼り付けてるんですね。で、これはだから、サウスエイジアとかパキスタンを説明するときに、これ読んでいれば、彼らに説明できる。で、特に、日本語の場合は、きちんとした発音で書いてないんで、英語でこういうようなことを勉強していれば、パキスタンのことは説明できる。で、例えばこの国は、マジョリタリアンデモクラシーっていう国ですけど、マジョリタリアンデモクラシーって非常に特殊な意味なんですね。で、多数決民主主義って言うんですけど、これ、そんなの言ったっけ？うん。説明して。
なんか、この対立にあるのがコンセンサスデモクラシーっていう考え方があって、なんかその民主主義に関してちょっと本の名前忘れたんですけど、その人の対立してるやつで、まあデモクラシーの中でも、多数決で決まったらもうそっちがほとんど政権を取ってしまうようなデモクラシーと、あとコンセンサスデモクラシーっていうのは、もうちょっと一票をなんか大事にするというか、仮に、まあ今の日本とかそっちなんですけど、与党が勝っても、
比例でみたいな。
比例でとかっていうのを採用してるっていう。で、なので、このマジョリタリアンデモクラシーのパキスタンに関しては、どっちが勝ったら、全部小選挙区で、ほんで意味負け票はもうゼロと一緒みたいな感じのデモクラシー、民主主義を持っているっていう。
だから、日本はマジョリタリアンデモクラシーじゃないんですよ。これ非常に例外。
アメリカとかの大統領選
もうこっちに近いですね。こっちに。
いや、そうじゃない。もうパキスタンだけ。
パキスタンだけ。
世界でパキスタンだけ。で、少数派の意見は無視する。パキスタンだけの少数の意見は無視する。珍しい。味分かんなかったんだけど、これ、いろいろ調べて分かった。パキスタンの人は多分知ってると思うんですよね。あとはまあ。
じゃあ、与党、野党とかなんかみたいな、今回の選挙みたいな
党はね、いや、ここ政党はいっぱいあるんです。ただ、少数派意見は取り上げないみたいな、そういう政治をしてるんですね。で、これ、高橋これ見せたんで、ヒストリーパキスタンやったよね。で、ブッドはね、これブッドかな。 これはね、いけない。二つ。
And the number of questions will.
あのね、多分10分のとこまで見せた。
多分そうですね。
で、これはね、ブッドの話はね、前置きあるんだけど、これはね、2007年に暗殺されちゃったのね。54歳だね。で、この人はね、タリバンを支援してたんですよね。で、タリバンって女性を、もともと、このタリバンのイスラム教っていうのは、スンニ派なんだね。スンニ派っていうのは女性、サウジアラビアと一緒で、女性の権利を認めてないんですよ。認めてないんだけど、ブッドはね、タリバンに対して軍事的とか財政的に援助していた。で、タリバンは1996年に政権取ったんですね。アフガニスタンでね。で、2000年の 9.11 でアメリカ攻撃してタリバンが政府が崩壊した。そういう経緯なんですね。ただ、イスラム教国で女性が、大統領になるケースは多分他にはない。パキスタンの彼女だけ。インドはイスラム教じゃないですから。関係ない。民主主義国家。あとないですよね。女性が大統領とかプライムミニスターになってるケースはないですね。で、この国はね、不正って書いてありますけど、コラプションって言うんですけど、コラプションで、ブッドはコラプションはやらないんですけども、みんな、コラプションっていう名目で首相を降ろされてるんですね。もちろん、基本的には、彼女以外がプライムミニスターになったら、コラプションがあるんですけど、これがお父さんですね。あと、ここにあるように、パキスタンポリティクスって結局金出しても、末端にまでいかない。これはインドも一緒ですね。インドも一緒ですね。これがあと、パキスタンポリティクスで、お父さん時代からずっと言って、今の首相、これはパキスタンであんまりこの人、フセインって有名じゃないんですね。アジアとか中東で、首相が、有名じゃない国ってパキスタンぐらいですかね。うん。で、まずね、これを、続きをちょっと、見て。大橋も来てない、見てないのかな。この高橋だけ見てる。
Western world and indeed from the communist
で、
bloc.
彼女はね、もともと英国に留学してたんで、英語がすごく綺麗なんですね。パキスタン人の英語とは違う。で、本人も中身は結構まともなスピーチをしてるんですね。多分聞いたことないと思うんですけど。
For almost 6 years, I was in prison. Sometimes
She said 6 years in prison.
in one jail, sometimes in another. Sometimes under house arrest, sometimes in exile. But in August
Almost the same as Aung San Suu Kyi.
1988, General Zia, the military ruler, died in a still unexplained.
Okay, dear military ruler, she said, this is an airplane accident. So all ministries in the same plane and everybody dead all at once. So she is going to take a position.
Aeroplane crash.
1988.
And his death paved the way for the holding of elections in Pakistan. The military backed the election of a new president, President Ghulam Ishaq Khan, and although many of our supporters were disenfranchised, although my party was denied the right to an election symbol so important in a country with widespread illiteracy, I led the Pakistan People's Party to a convincing victory against the forces of fundamentalism, against the forces of a well-entrenched.
This is fundamentalism, as you know. This is very like a Taliban and very aggressive Islamist
establishment, and against the forces which had organized dictatorship for more than a decade. On December 2nd, 1988, I became Prime Minister of Pakistan, the first woman ever to lead a Muslim country in democratic times. It was not.
This is unbelievable. As she got the position of Prime Minister, Islam society, they never get a woman position. Okay, any country, woman position is not like her. Only Pakistan, very exception. And still, I believe why she is assassinated, because still many Pakistani people is some skeptical woman will go and take a position of Prime Minister. I think this is a big reason why. Instead of religious issue, instead of the counterpart, or instead of the terrorist people, she is a good target to kill.
Just a personal victory for me, and I do not see it as just a victory for my country. It was the triumph of an idea, the idea of an enlightened Islam, where men and women are equal. As soon as we formed the government, we put into practice what we had preached for so many years. We immediately freed the press, freed political prisoners, and we planted the seeds of democracy, nurturing, cultivating, feeding, at first, fragile institutions, which we hoped would one day develop into a strong, capable, and just political system. But those 20 months were not easy for my government or for my people. The entrenched forces of dictatorship would not let go. They were not willing to leave the privilege and power which they had enjoyed, and they used their resources to start a massive campaign of disinformation. And as a woman, I faced an additional burden from those in my society who...
It's the same. She is a woman, but also the Bangladesh is Prime Minister Hasina is also woman. And all those the developing countries, Prime Minister, President is very good, talented, very heavy skill, but very difficult to improve all those countries. Bangladesh is the same. Hasina is the Prime Minister, also her father assassinated. And I met with their several ministers in Bangladesh. They are very smart people, but very difficult to govern those countries. Pakistan is the same. If she is very good and speaking English very good, and she's very educated, but very difficult to govern her country.
Believe that a woman's place is behind closed doors. I remember when I first became Prime Minister, pamphlets were distributed by a fundamentalist party, in which one of the fundamentalists said that he had dreamt he saw the Prophet with tears of blood running down his face, And he asked the Prophet, "O my Prophet, why are you weeping tears of blood?" And the Prophet replied, "These tears will not stop till that woman goes."
Okay, this is a woman is very difficult to keep sustaining position in Islamic world.
So such were the ways that the fundamentalists dreamed of in trying to destabilize and depose my government, forgetting that the holy book itself had pointed to the rule of Queen Sheba and described it as a land of plenty. I am proud to say that my government brought an economy in ruins to life. We introduced privatization, not denationalization, not selling public sector enterprises to a handful of individuals, but trying to broaden the scope of shareholding in the country by allowing professionals and middle classes to buy shares instead of spending the money on consumer items. We made difficult decisions to reduce the domestic debt and non-developmental expenditure. We cut non-developmental expenditure by 3 billion rupees and refunneled this money into a grassroots anti-poverty program. We didn't do what was popular. We did what was necessary. And Pakistan prospered. The World Bank and the IMF lauded our efforts, and the United States ambassador to Pakistan called my government a role model for third world countries. We cut unemployment by half and reduced inflation.
Oh, by the way, she made a presentation in the States, Washington, D.C. Many developing countries, prime minister and president, try to make presentation in Washington, D.C. because those people want to get support from United States government. Right?
To 5.6%. And simultaneously, we addressed the long neglected social needs of our people by increasing education expenditure by 70%, health expenditure by 40%, by drawing up the blueprint for an ambitious population control program, and earmarking funds for women's development. It wasn't easy when we had to pay off military debts. It wasn't easy when we had an IMF program, and so to fund these programs, we involved ourselves in the largest ever resource mobilization that Pakistan has known, 1.4% of GDP as opposed to 1% of GDP. And within the political constraints under which we labored, my government did everything possible for the well-being of the women of Pakistan. If I may give you two small examples, we lifted a 10-year ban on women taking part in international sports. And after a decade, for the first time, Pakistani women could compete with their sisters.
So, if you listen to her presentation, looks like she is going to be the developed country's prime minister, right? No, it's a very poor country's prime minister. Okay? So, listening to her presentation looks like she's, but actually her talent, her skill, and her educated background is a top level of developed country. And English speaking is also very top level. But actually she managed very poor country at that time. Still now Pakistan is poor.
In international competitions. We opened a women's development bank to give loans to working women who wanted to open boutiques or salons or export garments. It was a bank run by women for women. But we did allow men to keep their money in it if they so wished. But this was only a beginning. Elected for a 5-year term, we had the hopes and dreams of transforming our nation. But we were unable to complete this task. Just 4 days after Iraq went into Kuwait, the forces of fundamentalism moved in Islamabad, and in a military-backed coup, with constitutional window dressing so similar to last month's fraud in Moscow, my government was sacked and a state of emergency declared. My political opponents were taken into the new government, becoming the Pakistani equivalent of Moscow's Committee of 8. But unlike the world's reaction to the attempt against President Gorbachev, a distracted world stood silently by while democracy was dismembered in Pakistan, and fabricated charges of abuse of power were brought against my government ministers, my party colleagues, and even my family members. I was threatened with dire consequences if I contested the elections. And this was a particularly difficult time for me, because in the past, as leader of the opposition, fighting General Zia, I did not have 2 small children. And at this particular time, I was caught between my obligations as a mother, between my obligations to the lawyers who were fighting the legal cases against my husband and myself, and of course, obligations to the people of Pakistan, because we were involved in a political campaign and I had to address campaign meetings. But I knew one thing, that my commitment to the people of Pakistan came first. And in the months of August, September and October, I spurned all offers by the Pakistani government to go into exile, although I was threatened that if I stayed on...
Oh, she's talking about, okay, going to the exile, because she just seeking for in charge for corruption.
I would be disqualified and my husband would be sentenced. I was encouraged by the people of Pakistan who supported us and came to every rally in large numbers. Every poll, every analysis.
By the way, she is making an address in the States, right? Washington, D.C. This is very important for all over the world. Prime Minister or President make presentation in the States. So American politicians understand who she is. Okay? She doesn't do anything wrong, especially for corruption and bribes, so forth. So everybody understands, okay, just American politician will go and support to her. And so you can imagine how Japanese politicians they're doing. They don't do anything. This is actually not in the parliament. This is just make a presentation in Washington D.C. Somewhere is kind of event, just event. So Japanese politicians never do that. Okay, this is very important. And this is Chinese people or any other Asian country people are very smart to persuade American politicians. Okay.
Predicted that the Pakistan People's Party would win.
Oh, first of all, Japanese politicians, none of those can speak kind of presentation in English.
The election. But as I feared and publicly stated, the forces that organized the dismissal of my government in August 1990 were not prepared to see me re-elected in October 1990. In those elections, we bore sad witness to a massive electoral fraud in Pakistan, with fictional votes being added to government-sponsored candidates. This is not just my claim. The most conservative report published by the NDI admits that 15% rigging took place. The French report goes much further in enumerating massive rigging which took place. And as time has passed, the former caretaker Prime Minister has admitted that rigging took place, but he was unable to stop it. The caretaker Minister of Water and Power has admitted that rigging took place and he was unable to stop it. And so have two former coalition party members. On August 4th, 1991, Mr. Naveed Malik, who is here with us coincidentally today and was an advisor to Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, held a press conference in which he said that on the eve of the elections in Pakistan, a meeting took place between the security agencies and the government, where it was decided that the Pakistan People's Party number of seats would be kept to 45. The Minister of Interior also said publicly that the PPP would not win more than 45. And he said this was done by adding 20,000 votes to each government candidate through electoral cells that had been set up.
Oh, she is talking about the rigging. Okay? Rigging. A fails vote.
In the 4 provinces. This was not the first indication of electoral cells. The NDI team had also noted the functioning of an electoral cell in Balochistan. 20,000 votes per government candidate. That amounts to 7 million votes. I'm sure those kind of numbers would have kept a Democrat in office for the last 3 terms and made sure that Mrs. Thatcher was not re-elected in England. There is a lesson for all of us in this, not just for the people of Pakistan, but for all of us in transitional democracies. Because democracy is not just balloons and buntings. Democracy is not just about buttons. Democracy is about the sanctity of the ballot. And when the sanctity of the ballot is destroyed, democracy is eroded. And that is why we must all share our experiences as parliamentarians and recognize that democracy...
Okay, by the way, she is talking about rigging vote in Pakistan, right? So she tried to criticize the counterpart people, and he explained those kind of issues for American politicians, right? So what I'm trying to say is this is the very same thing Japanese politicians need to make a presentation comfort women in the States, and just the Nancy massacre to persuade American politicians in the States. None of those people they did in the States. No explanation. So that's the reason I wrote a book here. This is comfort women in English.
ドメスティックのものを外には日本は出さないですよね。
それをだから例えばコンフォートウーマンをね、今アメリカでコンフォートウーマンのセミナーを開く。ワシントン DC で。ね。そうすることによってアメリカのポリティシャンがそれを聞いて、日本はその修正主義、歴史を修正するのかっていう非難をね、今までしてるのを、そうじゃないよっていうふうな説明する場をね、彼女はそういうことをやってる。で、そのために僕この本書いて。日本で英語でコンフォートウーマン、例えばコリアのコンフォートウーマン嘘だっていうのを、書いてる人誰もいないのね。で、僕はそれを書いた。南京もそうだし、731もそうだけど、何が正しいのかっていうのを書いた。それを日本の政治家はアメリカで誰も説明してない。それはね、it's a shame でしょ ?shame。武藤はね、そういうことをやってる。だからこれは日本人は彼女のプレゼンテーションを聞いて、我々は学ばなければいけない。非常に立派なことなんですね。今だから、その、不正選挙のことを言って喋ってる。
can be fragile, and fragile democracies needs...
で、彼女はデモクラシーのことを非常によくわかってて、で、それを説明して、今の、カウンターパート、私は不正やってないということを訴えて、ね。
support. We are aware that Mrs. Aquino's 5-year experiment with democracy in the Philippines has faced 5 attempts, including one which needed to be put down with the armed intervention of the United States. In Argentina, there have been more than half a dozen military rebellions, and in Peru, narcotics and terrorism threaten a 2-decade experiment in democracy. I remember when I was alone in prison, I was so heartened to hear that Senator Pell in the United States had linked United States assistance to Pakistan to the restoration of full civil liberties and representative government. The US and other countries today are making it clear that aid to Eastern Europe will be predicated on freedom and economic liberalism. These efforts at informal ad hoc networking for democracy need to be strengthened. Democratic nations, and here the global parliamentarians can play a role, need to forge a consensus against the most powerful idea in the world today, the right of a people to freely choose their government. And that is why I believe that there should be an association of democratic nations which can
日本の政治家でこういう風な英語でもってアメリカでプレゼンテーションできる政治家一人もいない。で、彼女のすごいのはやっぱりデモクラシーを自分でしっかり勉強してるから、こういう話ができる。それをやっぱりこの人がすごいということをね、アメリカの政治家に印象づけてる。
And support democracies in countries where there is no democracy, share experiences with new democracies, and set up two important components. One I would call the human rights component, and the second I would call the vote counting component. Mrs. Aquino would never have won the elections if NAMFREL had not been there as an independent vote counting machinery, because the government declared that President Marcos
発展途上国の典型としては、人権問題ともう一つはやっぱり、投票の不正があるんですね。不正。アメリカもリギングは、アメリカもリギングはあるんですけど、アメリカのリギングと違って、例えばパキスタンとかフィリピンとかの投票そのものはね、機械、アメリカはね、機械そのものをいじくってるんですけど、発展途上国の場合のボーティングも、アフリカもそうですけど、アンシールドバロットって言って、普通バロットはシールされてるわけね。投票した後。それを例えば、もう開けて不正なやつを放り込んで、で、アンシールドって言うんだけど、もう開けたら、アンシールドバロットも有効にしてるっていうのも当たり前でやってるわけですよ。それはだから権力者がそういうことをやってるんで、この国もそうですね。マルクスもそうだ。
Marcos had won the elections. Perhaps I would be Prime Minister today if NAMFREL had been counting the votes in Pakistan. Thus, the Association of Democratic Nations needs to sponsor a vote counting machinery as an independent verification of a government.
Independent verification of a government. だから、例えば、第三国がね、来て、投票を、レファレンダムもそうですけど、監視団が投票の状況をちゃんとやってくださいねっていうのが、結構今でも大きなイシュー。
すいません、笑い話ですけど、この間の選挙終わってから、私アフリカ人の人だったら、なんでやってスタンプをしてもらったって言われて、スタンプをされませんよね。向こうでやったスタンプを、多分その国はそうだけど、ガーナそうだと思う。スタンプして一回この人やったっていう印になってる。
その日取れないやつね。その日が取れない。
それじゃあね、消したりとかいくらでもできるし、違う人いっちゃったりとかって。
取れないんだよ、一日取れない。
The second aspect on which I give importance is the question of human rights. Because any government...
Great public dissatisfaction.
And there are forces in Pakistan that would have been delighted with a renewal of the Cold War, which they could have played off to their own advantage. The Association of Democratic Nations could help change the calculus for all potential coup plotters by enabling them to know that they would face international outrage and international disgrace. Ultimately, the door could be kept open even for economic sanctions. And I believe that what is at stake here is not just international morality, but also international peace and stability. There's a simple fact, although it's much overlooked, and that fact is that democracies do not start wars with democracies. At least I do not know of an example in modern history of one democratic nation going to war with another democratic nation. Thus, democracy is the only guarantor of international peace and stability. An association of democratic nations could promote the idea that foreign aid and economic investment be channeled to and restricted to only real democracies. There is nothing wrong in rewarding an idea in which the donors believe. A frontal assault.
すごいでしょ？プライムミニスターこんな1時間も喋れるって。すごいでしょ？すごいんですよ。でしかも中身がね、いろいろ考え
On basic human rights is taking place as we speak today against the people of my country, Pakistan, where thousands committed to democracy have been arrested from streets, have been kidnapped, tortured, and even murdered. I mentioned earlier to our host that in Pakistan, parliamentarians belonging to the opposition and leader of the opposition have been kidnapped. The first time the kidnapping took place was in November, second time in December 1990, then in February 1991, and now again on August 4th, a member of the minorities belonging to our government disappeared for a whole month till September 5th. His family wrote telegrams to the President and the Prime Minister. In the newspapers, articles appeared that the parliamentarian has disappeared and his family have alleged that he has been kidnapped. The party has alleged he has been kidnapped. But not a word of concern from the President or the Prime Minister. Not a word of concern from the Speaker. Ultimately, the parliamentarian appeared and defected to the other side. The main accused in a case against my husband is a parliamentarian. He held out for 6 months. But after 6 months, when he wanted to be free of jail, the Chief Minister of the province went to him and offered him his freedom if he defected. The television cameras were brought into
defected 願えるね。
the prison to televise his defection. Members of parliament have been called terrorists unless they defect. One member of parliament was vacationing in the hills when a dead body was recovered from his living room. It had been planted there by the police. And when a Washington Post stringer wrote stories about how the police are fabricating cases, he received 17 stab wounds. And that is not the only case of intimidation of a journalist who has dared to write police and the state is doing. Unfortunately, dictatorships always seek to garb their crushing of political opponents in the cloak of legality. And that is why it is so necessary to have an independent human rights commission which can look into cases brought against political opponents to see whether those political opponents
ヒューマンライトっていうのはこういうこと言ってるのね。だから、トーチャーとか、それから、シーセスタ、スタービン、刺すね。とか、いろいろそういうことを、南アジアどの国でもみんなある。このパキスタンだけじゃない。どこの国でもある。インドでもある。
did in fact commit a crime and are seeking refuge under political status, or whether the state is committing a crime against those political opponents. And that is why an association of democratic nations should have a human rights component. Because of the silence of the world, even today my husband and colleagues are in prison cells and they have very little hope of getting free without the executive branch wanting them to be free, because the executive branch has set up special courts. I'm pleased to say that Canadian observer team, the French observer team, and indeed the English observer team have all come and examined the special courts and said they do not provide a fair trial to the defendants. I'll give you an example. My former Minister of Law was disqualified by a special court. The special court wrote in its judgment that although the prosecution has failed to prove its case, because the onus is on the defendant, we find him guilty. Now, because it's a contempt of law in which judgments cannot be discussed, the press cannot write about this judgment. Legal opinion cannot discuss this judgment. Another special court judge in Karachi, sentencing 8 boys to death, wrote, because President Bush says that convictions do not take place in Pakistan and there is lawlessness, therefore I convict these 8. President Bush doesn't even know about the special court trial taking place in Pakistan. But again, because of the contempt of law proceedings, nobody can examine these judgments, and that is why my party has suggested a reform of the judicial system and said before a judge is confirmed, he should appear before the Parliament's committee and all his judgments should be scrutinized. We also intend to repeal this contempt of court law once we come into government. I do believe that democracy in the New World Order demands that basic tenets of freedom and human rights be protected whenever and wherever they are threatened. We cannot pick on one coup and not pick on another. We cannot choose one massacre and not choose another. We cannot afford to make a distinction between one fraudulent election and another. People who believe in democracy cannot condemn a coup in Moscow and remain silent when one takes place in Islamabad. Selective morality is immoral. People who believe in human rights cannot condemn 3 deaths in Moscow and remain silent when hundreds die in Kashmir. Selective morality is immoral. People who believe that human rights should not be violated cannot remain silent when human rights are violated in the Middle East. For selective morality is immoral. The New World Order and the victory of freedom against totalitarianism has put the onus on the forces of freedom not to pick and choose, but to universally and unquestionably and immediately speak out when democracy and human rights are being violated. That, I believe, is the moral imperative of the New World Order. Despite my frustration and yes, even anger over the coup against my government, the blatantly fraudulent elections, the tragic setback to democracy, I am determined to continue to struggle for our common cause of freedom. Despite the pain I feel, even as I speak to you today, that my husband is held for no other crime than being married to me, I believe it is important not to give up. I remember my father's last letter to me, written from the death cell, in which he quoted the words of Robert F. Kennedy. And he said, "Every generation has its central concern whether to end war, erase racial injustice, or improve the working conditions of man." Today's young people appear to have chosen for their concern the dignity of the individual human being. They demand a government that speaks directly and honestly to its citizens. And then my father added, "The possibilities are too great, the stakes too high, to bequeath to the coming generation only the prophetic lament of Tennyson. Ah, what shall I be at 50 if I find the world so bitter at 25? I am guided by those words, and that is why I was so pleased to have this opportunity to speak with the global parliamentarians.
Oh, just a moment. What she said, I find the world so bitter. She was 25 years old, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I am guided by those words, and that is why I was so pleased to have this opportunity to speak with the global parliamentarians. I want you to know that I was due to go to Puerto Rico for a well-earned holiday, but I decided to come here and be with all of you and to speak to you as one parliamentarian to another about our common concerns for freedom and the common efforts that we should be making for its preservation. I shall now be very happy to answer some questions for you, And the number of questions will depend as to how much time Congressman Green can get.
So why I pick up her presentation is, she's very good presentation she made. And I think this one is almost, how many years ago? More than 20 years ago? She was killed year 2007.
Okay.
It means that more than 10 years ago she was killed, assassinated. So she made very good presentation.
Give us.
So I think Japanese politicians need to listen to her presentation, try to study, and just I told you, okay, how he's going to make presentation in the United States, and also American politicians, persuade them what their intention is, what Japanese government did in the past, and what in future what they going to do, and get support from American people and American politicians. She did success here, right?
Thank you very much. About 15% of my constituents are of Puerto Rican origin, so I don't know whether they'll take very kindly to my having kept you from going there. But I think maybe 10 minutes of question and answer will be fine.
I don't really have a question. One day, a woman and a Mexican lady, I would like to tell you how proud we feel, all the women in the world, when we can meet a woman with you, and you are really an example for all of us. Thanks for everything.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your comment.
About the election monitoring process. You quoted examples from your own country, but is it not a fault of existing election monitoring processes that they're always too late? And I say that from taking part in one myself. That which is something far more fundamental, which is exploring the conduct and mechanism of elections before the actual elections themselves. It's not just enough to turn up and see the votes being cast and maybe not.
I couldn't agree with you more. In Pakistan, we believe that 50% of the rigging took place before the actual election day and 50% on the election day. In my own experience, monitoring teams cannot do much because they go to just a few stations and they leave immediately after. What is important is a standing body and an ongoing mechanism for examining the entire process leading up to the election and involved in vote counting. I think NANFREL is the only example where there was a vote, at least the one that I know. And that's why I think it's so important that if we believe in democracy, we not give the forces of dictatorship ways of sophisticated rigging to hoodwink the world.
I was quite embarrassed by your comment when you said that how many of us expressed outrage at the coup and so we're doing and we're distracted with what happened in one country. I would like to know if what is happening at the present time in terms of international bodies, UN, talking on other areas, to exercise a form of sanction against an ongoing suppression of human rights. What are individual countries doing to provide aid to Pakistan, military and economic, and would you care to offer some suggestions as to what we might do for this moment?
I think that as I mentioned, the Canadians sent a team to observe the human rights situation, and the French have most recently in June sent a team which concluded. And we have had some observer teams coming, but we think that having more observer teams would be an effective way. We have not yet had an American team visit Pakistan, and I was mentioning that it would be important to have global parliamentarians come to see how parliamentarians are doing in Pakistan, so that those who have been kidnapped or those who have been maltreated can explain, and this could form effective moral pressure. The United States is not giving any assistance to Pakistan at the moment over the nuclear proliferation issue. My opponents had waged an election campaign saying that I was soft on nuclear because I spoke of non-proliferation, and I spoke on the need for India and Pakistan to tackle the question of non-proliferation and mutual arms reduction treaty. And they said if elected they would detonate a bomb. Obviously it was an electoral ploy, but now they're caught between the promise they made to the people and the assurances they would like to give to the United States in getting the aid resumed. I would like to see the United States government broaden the scope of its negotiations with Pakistan, not only to focus on non-proliferation, but also to include electoral reform, human rights, and narcotics control. I do believe that the narcotics barons and the financial oligarchy in Pakistan combine to destabilize and bring my government down. In fact, the disclosures that have come about BCCI are very interesting because
what she's talking about is Pakistan's very heavy problem, narcotic, and also the financial balance, she said, is several people are dominant in this country with narcotic business. So she cannot handle those people. And also nuclear proliferation. And Pakistan, they owned nuclear bomb. So she's also later going to talking about American government want to involve to negotiate with India and Pakistan. She is seriously to reconsider how to handle nuclear bomb, but also she expects the American government of narcotic balance, how to manage those people. Actually, Afghanistan, American people involved in those kind of issues, but tell the truth, American government is not so much kind. They just only try to steal narcotic business and get put into more turmoil into Afghanistan. So it's very risky ask them to American government involvement. Okay, why? Okay, maybe American president will going to say yes, but they're going to send military people. They're going to send private-owned company try to get into the country, or they're going to accept. Okay, we're going to handle narcotic business instead of your country, but actually they try to steal the profit of this country. Actually, Pakistan, Afghanistan, they are doing. Okay, now we're going to continue talking about
present government
atomic
seems
bomb.
to be almost an extension of the BCCI bank in Pakistan. The president of Pakistan is the president also of the BCCI Foundation in Pakistan. A BCCI official has claimed that the president of Pakistan gets $80,000 a year for being president of the foundation, but he says he gets nothing. The president's son-in-law works for the BCCI. The chief minister of Sindh has admitted that he used to get money from BCCI when he was living abroad, and he has said he will not extradite the head of the BCCI. The prime minister of Pakistan has taken a loan from BCCI for the Himalayan textile mills, which he set up. So they're very strong connections. And it seems to me that the financial oligarchy and the narcotics barons got together because my government was one which was cleaning up the country, and they didn't like what was happening. Pakistan is very much forgotten. Today the United States is so involved in, and not only the United States but the Western world, North America, in the Middle East and the Soviet Union, that they are not focusing on Pakistan. Afghanistan is over, even though for us it's not. We've got 3 million refugees. So the focus is not on Pakistan, and I'm here in a way.
Oh, she said 3 million refugees from Afghanistan.
Afghanistan.
Also to remind Americans, don't forget Pakistan, and to try and build up a grassroots support for what is, to speak out against what is going on in Pakistan. I tried to involve the Commonwealth because I felt that if the United States is too busy with the Middle East and Soviet Union, why not the Commonwealth? And I wrote to the Commonwealth Secretary General, or was it the human rights person, asking that a human rights delegation visit Pakistan. And they told me that they could not visit on the invitation of the leader of the opposition, but only on the invitation of the government. Now, no government which is doing human rights violations is going to invite the Commonwealth to come over. But I do think the Commonwealth is an important platform which should be revitalized in the changing world situation, in the sense that I see their friends from India here, that I think one of the most important concerns of the subcontinent is a mutual arms reduction treaty and an agreement on non-proliferation. But I think somebody needs to bell the cat. And the bureaucratic pressure on governments in India, the popular pressures on a government in Pakistan are such that I think it would be very difficult for any Indian leader or any Pakistani leader to actually bell the cat. So we need a Camp David-style summit. And if Secretary of State Baker is too busy, I think the Commonwealth and John Major may be ways, or maybe Canada and the Commonwealth could be ways to make India and Pakistan sit down and address this extremely important question. Both our economies are in a tailspin, and yet there's tension rising up over Kashmir. The Soviet Union and the United States started de-escalating once they started arms control talks. So in my perspective, arms control talks are important if the fallout is to be on other issues too.
She says she seriously tried to control atomic bomb for India and Pakistan. Oh, she's got finished? No, one more question.
Criminals international. But now to come to the main point. We heard with great interest your diagnosis of what has happened to us and how democracy got derailed. Those are not answering, but you know, there's a great genius for diagnosis. But what is the remedy? What are the steps you think which could be taken to restore democracy, a healthy democracy, a true democracy in Pakistan? And one last comment. Very happy to hear from you about this talk about mutual confrontation. Very long time, saying that if the West would have swords, we would surely have more.
That's good. But I think you've had a great influence because I had the opportunity of sounding out your former Prime Ministers Chandrasekhar and Prime Minister V.P. Singh and present Prime Minister, then he was in the opposition, Narasimha Rao, and all of them, and even the militant Jana Sangh, and they were all in agreement for a mutual arms reduction treaty. So I think political leaders on both sides of the divide are ready, but somebody needs to bell the cat. The opposition parties in Pakistan have all got together, and I've learned a lesson not to go it alone. I think Pakistanis like broad consensus, and what we are arguing for is the establishment of an interim government of national consensus and an independent electoral commission to hold elections in Pakistan. For the interim period, we want this government of national consensus, and then on an agreed time, whether 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, we want elections held under an independent election machinery. But we do want a broad-based government, because I think Pakistan needs stability. Since 1977, there's been a conflict between the establishment and the people. The one has not accepted the other has not accepted the one. Unless there can be some kind of compromise, we cannot really tackle the larger issues such as malt or such as non-proliferation, such as our ties with America, our ties with India, even population growth inside. So what Pakistan needs is a period of peace, but a period of peace can only come about if there is a representative form of government and not if people feel that others are making the choice for them.
I think I do have to cut this off, but let me just call up for a couple of words to express the thanks of all of us to you. Dr. Mona Makram Ebe, Member of Parliament from Egypt.
Thank you. On behalf of Parliamentarians for Global Action, I would like to thank you, Mrs. Bhutto, for having shared such a humane experience with us, and where I suppose the standing ovation that you have received has expressed more than any words that I could tell our admiration for your courage, your persistence, and most of all, your genuineness to share with us this very hard experience. We wish you all the best. We are sure that one day democracy will be restored, and they will owe it to you in great part. Thank you for being with us.
Okay, this is good. Okay. How's that? How's where? How do you feel this presentation? what kind of impression do you have? My aspect, why I picked this her presentation is, I'd like to show her presentation to Japanese politicians. Okay? And it's a shame, Japanese politicians, none of those cannot make so fantastic presentation like her. And this is, I think, developing country and underdeveloping country is all prime minister very similar to her. Like Bangladesh, Miss Hasina is the same.
What's the educational background of Mr. Hasina?
Almost all South Asian prime minister is background of study in England.
In England?
In England.
So like Manchester or...
No, Stanford. Stanford
is US.
Oxford.
That's
Oxford
UK.
Background. And also, like Singapore is America. And India, Pakistan, Bangladesh is British Kingdom. Okay. So they speak British English. But her accent is not like British English, right? It's American.
Well, the reason I mentioned Harvard because she also studied in Harvard, didn't she?
Yeah. She studied Harvard. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'd like to move into the second presentation. This one is Afghan refugee in Pakistan. Oh, this one is.
What is the title again?
Inside story. Afghan refugees in Pakistan, a security threat. Okay, 2.5 million. This is actually 3 million Afghan refugees living in Pakistan, and the Pakistan government asked them to ask Afghanistan government take them all back to Afghanistan, but it's not easy. Too many people. And just explain some in Japanese like this. Okay, you try to read this. Almost impossible. Even if they have United Nations have budget, but 3 million people, it's not easy to send them back to Afghanistan. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's have a look. This is who are they?
This is Inside. Pakistan says Afghan refugees must leave the country by the end of the year. Rights groups say 100,000 people have already been forcibly returned. So why now? How much of this is politics at play? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Sami Zaidan. Well, they weren't born in Afghanistan. They've never lived there. But 2.5 million Afghan refugees could now be sent to a land they don't really know. Citing security concerns, Pakistan says the refugees must go to Afghanistan by the end of the year. It's a decision rights groups are calling one of the largest forcible returns of refugees in modern history. Afghan refugees have been living in Pakistan since the early 1980s when they fled the Soviet invasion.
By the way, early 1980s is at that time Soviet Union invaded. At that time Afghan people escaped from Afghanistan to Pakistan.
Pakistan has hosted more than 3 million Afghan refugees over the past several decades. The government has repeatedly set and extended deadlines for the refugees to leave. But it says this year is final, calling it a matter of national security. Human rights groups call the decision inhumane and illegal. They say the refugees have no homes or resources in Afghanistan. So lots to discuss with our guest. But first, Command Haider has this report from Jalala, a refugee camp in northern Pakistan.
pulling down the roof over their own heads. Amanullah and his family are busy dismantling their mud house to retrieve timbers that supported the roof. He takes us inside to show us what is left. He was a boy when he...
Oh, by the way, some people forced them back to Afghanistan. So this story is 5,000 people forced them back to Afghanistan. So forced. Pakistan government forced them back. But 3 million, and discussed is 5,000 is how they're going to do 3 million? It's impossible.
No, even the 5,000 is based on what, moved one village? I mean, or one...
Just have a look.
Okay.
Fled Afghanistan in the early 1980s and made this camp his home. This way he made his new life and raised his family. Now he's a grandfather and 4 of his sons are married. His children have only heard of Afghanistan and what life there is like.
The
government has granted us 6-month extension to leave the country. That's why we have packed all of our belongings to leave before winter. So that way we would be able to find a suitable place in Afghanistan for our kids and family.
As we go outside, we see his son Atikullah bargaining with a local scrap dealer who offers him less than 5,000 rupees or less than $50 for 2 old fans, a bookshelf and an old bed. The dealer is looking for a bargain. Atikullah's priority is to get some cash quickly to help the family for a few months. He's in no position to drive a hard bargain.
Taking all our belongings to Afghanistan would need at least 2 trucks and cost us double, which we can't afford. So we have decided to sell at lower prices so we can get some money to bear some of our expenses.
We asked the dealer if he's not being unfair by offering such low prices.
Yes, I admit that we are buying all these items at cheaper prices, but we are not forcing them to sell it to us. Even they are urging us to buy it at lower prices.
Afghan refugees are allowed to take their personal belongings with them, but many have opted to sell them to raise much needed money to be able to go back to their country. Kamal Haider, Al Jazeera, Jalala refugee camp in Mardan.
Let's bring our guests into the show. We have here in the studio Naveed Ahmed, an investigative journalist and security analyst. In Islamabad, we have Hassan Khan, specialist on Afghanistan-Pakistan issues. And in Kabul, Habib Wardak, good governance and anti-corruption activist. Habib himself was a refugee in Pakistan. Welcome to you all. If I could start with Habib. We're told by rights agencies, Habib, that 100,000 people have already returned. It's still a war-torn country. What are people returning back to?
First of all, they are returning back to their own country. Whether this country is good or bad, end of the day, that they have to come here. I don't speak for the government over here, but I might be speking for the general Afghan public.
But does it seem like most Afghans want to go back, Habib?
Our own Afghans back in. Whether they want to go back or whether they don't want to go back, this is their country, and ultimately they will have to be returning back to this country. I as a refugee, I have spent about 9 to 10 years in Pakistan when I was a little kid, back in early 80s up to early 2002, 2003. As a refugee, Pakistan never could be our country. Despite the warm heart and welcome showed to us by the general Pakistani nation, but it was the policies of the Pakistani government.
But just consider 3 million people living Afghanistan people living in Pakistan. It's 100% impossible for them back to the Afghanistan. 3 million.
The 3 million in camp, right?
No,
it's an Algerian camp.
3 million, not impossible camp.
No.
Syria case, the Turkey case is a camp. But this is no.
In Pakistan, it's not camp.
No, not camp, because this is their original refugees. They made children and grandchildren. They never back to the Afghanistan. It means many years, 1980s. So already not camp. This is living there. So this is a different story compared with Syria case. Syria is actually camp because 3-4 years But this is going to be 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. They actually live there. And also they don't have government identification in Pakistan. And also they don't have ID of Afghanistan. So this is a very difficult situation. Actually, they live there.
So,
And later they're going to show you Afghanistan Taliban or Al Qaeda attack those people, killed children in school.
Oh, the Afghan refugees.
Yeah, they're very famous story. They kill them, or attack hospital, or sort of things. They're going to have a look.
That never accepted us as humans in Pakistan. Whether the refugees want to come or don't want to come, end of the day, this is their country. And
yeah, but hang on, Habib. If people don't have much to return to, and there aren't proper structures in place to absorb them, to reintegrate them, that is a bit of an issue and might be something worth keeping in mind when we talk about whether they want to return or not, surely.
Well, they don't have anything, they don't have much either in Pakistan as well. The Pakistani government has been extending their residence for the past few years for about 6 months up to a year. Other than that, they don't have anything, and then the camps that they are dwelling in, they don't have anything else over there as well. What I'm saying is that the refugees could be divided into 3 categories. Would be the ones who have small or medium or big businesses in Kabul. That is a small chunk of refugees in Pakistan. Once they come back, they could, they would transfer in the capital as well, and they could contribute into the Afghan economy and the society. The second portion would be the ones who are educated in Pakistan, who have skill, who could be considered as the Afghan skill capital, and they could contribute into the Afghan reconstruction process as well. And the major chunk would be the ones who are dwelling in refugee camps. That is the issue for the Afghan government and for the Afghan general public as well. And that the help of the international community would be required to assist the Afghan government in providing shelter, water and food to these,
we'll talk about international
refugees.
Agencies and what help they can provide in a moment. Forgive me for interrupting here, Habib. We'll come back to you, but I want to focus on the point that you made as we take the discussion to Hassan in Islamabad. Now, Hassan, you have worked closely with the refugees. From your perspective, do they share that perspective that we're hearing from Habib, that however bad the situation is in Afghanistan, it's not much better for them in Pakistan? They've never really been welcomed by the government, Habib said, no matter how warm the welcome was from the general Pakistani population.
I think Habib has mentioned that he himself lived in Pakistan as a refugee, and the Pakistani general public was always good with them, with most of the refugees. I think Pakistan was an ideal country for the Afghan refugees. Myself as a Pakistani, I saw the refugees starting from Peshawar, going to Karachi, anywhere in Pakistan, doing any business in Pakistan except the government job. I think they were welcome. Nobody treated them badly. Even the police and even the other law enforcing agencies, they were always respecting the Afghan refugees, and that was the reason that majority of the Afghans, 1.6 million are registered, and more than that are unregistered, and almost on daily basis.
By the way,
6 million registered on what?
Huh?
1.6 million.
Actually, 2.5 million. Oh. She said 1.6 million.
But what are they registered to what?
What?
Registered to what? What are they talking about? Registered.
Oh, registered.
Yes. What are
1.6 registered? I don't know, other national, they are the
refugee in Pakistan?
Refugees legislation. Not ID. ID. And refugees legislation.
Okay.
Refugee legislation. But actually the people 2.5 million or 3 million, but 1.6 million registered. Not citizens, just registered.
Just registered. Okay.
And he said Pakistan people is so kind to Afghanistan people staying there, but actually Afghanistan is very close to India rather than Afghanistan. Okay? But Afghanistan people is very kind to Pakistan people, very kind to Afghanistan people, especially refugees.
Pakistanis are.
And Afghanistan-Pakistan government relationship is also good.
Right.
But Pakistan people are very kind for Afghanistan, staying in Afghanistan, refugees. Okay, this is very special. And Afghanistan government very close to India. Both country relationship.
Afghanistan government close
Yes,
to India.
yes, yes.
Okay.
Not Pakistan.
Okay, okay. Oh,
So
okay.
if they're going to India and Afghanistan, they're going to import-export, but the Pakistan government never allows them to pass through Pakistan territory. Okay, but he said refugees from Afghanistan, but Pakistan people take care of them very well. And country to country is not so good. But Pakistan government is take care of Afghanistan Taliban, not Pakistan Taliban. Okay, this is a little bit sophisticated issues. Why Pakistan Taliban is against Pakistan government, but Afghanistan Taliban is not against from Pakistan government. Just only staying there, and they try to back and forth going to Pakistan and Afghanistan. So Pakistan government supporting to Afghanistan Taliban.
Is Afghanistan Taliban against Afghanistan government?
Yes,
Yes.
because they try to take over that country, Afghanistan, Pakistan Taliban.
Okay, let's see the picture.
Okay.
Sorry, Hassan, to jump in.
30,000
Forgive me for interrupting you, but was it always the case that they were never attacked or harassed? And if you read the Amnesty International report of August 21st, 2016, they say, quote, attacking a group of refugees because they happen to be from the same country where armed groups come from that carry out vile atrocities is a cruel and discriminatory practice, they say.
This is the 2016 report, as you mentioned. I'm talking of the Afghan refugees, but now, after the Peshawar school attack in 2014, and later on another university attack in Charsadda in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, the Pakistani government has come up with a national plan to deal with the issue of terrorism and militancy, and that is called the National Action Plan. And simultaneously, the Afghan government was also putting pressure on the Pakistani government to deal with those Afghan militants who are crossing the border. So Pakistan was under pressure, definitely one under this National Action Plan, and two, because in National Action Plan, settlement of the refugees issue with the Afghan government was a priority agenda item. And the same with the Afghan government was repeatedly calling the Pakistani government that anything happening in Afghanistan is done by the Taliban, and Taliban are residing in the provinces of Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So definitely the government also give it a serious consideration. Two, I think the way the Afghan government or the government, the political leaders, the way they were treating the Pakistanis or the Pakistani government, definitely there are certain sensibilities for Pakistan, particularly going close to India. So Pakistan took a decision that one, all the illegal refugees, being the non-registered refugees in Pakistan, must be sent back without giving them any more time. And to the unregistered refugees, as Habib mentioned, that several times they were giving.
All right, since you mentioned there the attack on the Afghan school, I can see, Habib, we will come back to you in a moment. Bear with us for a second, Habib. But since Hassan mentioned there the attack on the school, perhaps it's a good time to sort of recap things. Pakistan did, of course, toughen its approach to Afghan refugees after that Peshawar school attack in December 2014. Just to remind ourselves, that's when more than 140 students...
Okay, this is attacked by Afghanistan Taliban or Al-Qaeda to the school in Pakistan.
Students and staff at the Army school were killed. Now, the main suspect of that attack was killed in Afghanistan more than 2 years later. The Pakistani government saying refugee camps near the Afghan border are a security threat. They must be shut down, they started saying, to protect Pakistani citizens. And I'm wondering, Naveed, this is what the official line has increasingly become in Pakistan, that these camps are a security issue. They're becoming a border control issue. How much of this is really security and how much of it is politics because of souring relations between Kabul and Peshawar?
Well, security issue is very much there. Pakistani government, when the influx started, did not register them. They came everywhere. One morning I woke up in Multan and we went to play, and the playground was all tents and whatever kind of tents you can imagine, impoverished people living there. And we started our youth.
Okay, at first they came there, living in a tent.
Right.
What you said.
Our childhood with Afghans. We shared our schools, we shared our hospitals and almost everywhere. And for the police, the government treated us and them at the same level. There was no discrimination per se until you enter 2014, when Peshawar incident happens. Over the years, there has been a feeling in Pakistan that Pakistan's economy is being punished by the Americans. And
question. He said that hospitals were shared.
Yeah.
So refugees were treated free?
Of course.
Of course, right?
Of course, they don't have money.
No money, so...
And school, education, and health care, and the Pakistani government took care of those people.
And in camp or Pakistani government didn't take any advantage of human resource to create some economy. No. They didn't. Okay, so that's all.
But I tell you, they are very poor,
right?
Poverty people, so healthcare is not qualified.
To start with, right?
Okay,
originally, yes,
and the same as refugees in Turkey, and 3.5 million refugees there. At that time, Turkey cases, do you know the American NGO supported them for take care of school and healthcare. But Pakistani cases, the government helped them. But 2.5 million is almost same number of Turkish refugees from Syria. So they are, I don't know how come they are so kind to care of those people in Pakistan. But actually he explained that. So lots of money they paid for the...
Yes, the refugees.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
The West for having a nuclear weapon or having some issues with the United States policy or Western policy, while we were, as a country, housing 3 million or more Afghan refugees. So that was the context in which the public opinion and the government's understanding started stiffening up. Much of that happens in 2013 and 2014, we see. And anything happening inside Afghanistan is blamed on Pakistan, as if Afghanistan's corrupt leaders, Hamid Karzai and the following, have outsourced their security, country's security to Pakistan and their heart and mind to India or whatever.
Okay, but
so this is where
this guy is Pakistan guy.
Security, while Pakistan.
Okay, this person, Pakistan person, probably he's a minister or some this Pakistan person the other side. And Karzai is the former prime minister of Afghanistan. Karzai, he said, okay, Karzai, he does not take care of refugees, Afghan refugees in Pakistan. So he accused of him for no responsibility.
Right, not being
right?
About security, the camp security. There are many who would say that the militarization, as we call it, of camps, of turning some of those Afghans into fighting groups, into even the Taliban, started with or is connected to the operations or activities of Pakistan's intelligence, ISI, in those very camps that they're complaining about today. Is there not some truth?
ISI is too small to carry out the militarization of 3 million refugees.
Where did the Taliban emerge?
May I respond? There is no doubt that United States, Afghan dissidents of all stature were agreeing on the fact that there should be resistance against the Soviets. Moving on, history doesn't start after 2001.
Fighting each other in Kabul.
History doesn't begin from 2001, when 9/11 happens. History begins when Soviets invade an independent country, whatever type it was, and people started coming here and calling Pakistan a home. That's very important correction to be made. The indoctrination of militarization of the minds of Afghans and Pakistanis started with the blessing of CIA, United States, the West, and also the regional players in the GCC and elsewhere. Moving on, since 2002 particularly, and 2004 more stringently, Pakistan was part of a counter-terror campaign, which was carried out inside and also helped Afghanistan and United States carry it out.
Well, actually, 2000, the American government troop invade Afghanistan to battle against Taliban.
No, CIA.
Yeah, as soon as possible, Taliban government collapsed, and then still America occupied Afghanistan. That's the reason why 2.5 million people, refugees from Afghanistan to Pakistan.
Has been created.
Beyond that, the blame has been unduly placed. As far as refugees are concerned, the discrimination that is happening now wasn't there. However, the understanding was also there that political issues should not be, put on the shoulders of Afghans, who have been excellent people, who have contributed to Pakistan economy for like 38 years.
All right, I could see Habib. I promised him I'd give him a chance to get in because he wanted to comment on something. Go ahead, Habib.
I agree with my friend that yes, the Afghan refugees contributed a lot into the development of cities like Peshawar, Lahore, Karachi, and Kuwait. No doubt about that. But disagreeing to the points that both of my friends made, I was called a muhajir when I used to go to school in Pakistan. Now, muhajir is a very holy word, and if you look at it into its original context, where the Prophet, peace be upon him, migrated from Mecca to Medina. But in Pakistan, it was used as a derogatory term for us, and we used to feel inferior, no doubt about it. And we don't expect much from the Pakistani public and the government in this context, because the Indian Muslims who migrated back then in mid-1940s, they're still called muhajirs and they're still called people from outside. So we don't expect much from them. Speaking in terms of the Peshawar massacre, which happened in school, which was very unfortunate and inhuman, and the university massacre. Yes, the Afghan government has acted upon that and have killed the prime suspect. But I wonder when will the Pakistani establishment take action on what people in Afghanistan did, whose link is strictly connected to people in Pakistan. What happened the other day at the American University of Afghanistan? What happened to so many schools in Afghanistan? We haven't seen much as far as that aspect is concerned. And speaking in terms of radicalization,
okay, hang on, Naveed wants to weigh in.
She's Afghanistan person, refugees, former refugees are now living in Afghanistan, right?
No, he moved to Afghanistan from Pakistan.
Afghanistan. And he complained Pakistan
yes.
for the kind of
treatment he experienced.
Religious issues, sort of thing, right?
Well, not only religious. I think he just not religious, but race, or just
race discrimination.
Discrimination, yes.
Just briefly, that Hamid Karzai-led rhetoric of anti-Pakistan sentiment cannot really serve any discussion. The reality is that the Afghan government hasn't done anything to take responsibility of the people. There is no plan.
Okay, he just complained that Hamid Karzai, former president of Afghanistan,
Kabul, which is in place to get these people back in their countries or fix the security issues. The rate of transfer of policemen to Taliban every year is increasing.
All right, Hassan. What I'm wondering, listening to this, is even if these people are moved back,
to add.
All right, go ahead.
Just to add my yesterday experience, I visited what my friend Habib is. I think somehow he is trying to exaggerate certain things, and maybe he's sitting in Kabul That may be the requirement for most of the best analysts. But one thing, yesterday I visited the major repatriation center at Chamkani in Peshawar, and daily hundreds of families are visiting that camps, and now that the UNHCR is trying to formalize them. Believe me, I met a number of families. I interviewed them for my television channel. They are still reluctant. They still want. They say that we are more at home in Pakistan. What this terms in school, he was called a refugee. I think he knows very well, being in a Pashtun society himself is a Pashtun. So yesterday, the refugees who are in Pakistan, who by the way they say that
so why isn't citizenship an option for some of these people if 70% of the refugee population is born and bred in Pakistan?
Yeah, they're born and bred in Pakistan, and as Kamal Haider in his report yesterday, I interviewed a number of families. The elder one who migrated to Pakistan, he married here, he has a son, and now he has a grandchildren. And believe me, most of the women, they will be
a possible solution for some of these people then?
Citizenship cannot be a possibility because Pakistan does not adhere to the UNHCR clauses which impinge on Pakistan or any country to offer citizenship. Countries like Turkey or Pakistan, they do not. Mostly they are European or Australia or New Zealand and some countries probably in Latin America. Pakistan is not a member of that convention.
Is their return legal? Because according to some human rights groups,
initially it was very open-ended. Pakistanis never registered anyone, but after 9/11 there was registration of Pakistani nationals, and follow-up was to register all other people who are living here, including Afghans.
Yeah, but
that is where the registration process.
Amnesty International said in its report, for repatriation, I'm quoting now, to be lawful, it must be truly voluntary. It doesn't seem like this is voluntary.
I agree with that, and I think there is more of rhetoric on the Ghani and Abdullah government side, and Dostum, who's a war criminal, that is really having influence on Afghan people. Those politicians in Kabul.
Oh, by the way, Ghani is the current Prime Minister of Afghanistan. Ghani.
Will do not do anything for the people of Afghanistan except for themselves.
Okay,
Pakistanis,
hang on.
Let me complete. Pakistanis' reaction to that is not realistic. 3 million or 1.7 million people cannot be repatriated in like 1 month or 2 years.
That was the point.
Okay, by the way, he is talking about the refugees repatriate, send them back to Afghanistan. But actually, Afghanistan is only Ghani control surrounding their only capital, Kabul. But Afghanistan, almost all area is occupied by Taliban. So Ghani cannot negotiate with Pakistan, accepted 2.5 million people, refugees, send them back to Afghanistan. It's impossible. Okay?
Well, I don't know how realistic, but how about then Afghan Taliban? Don't they how about they have no interest to recruit?
No. They simply is American occupied Afghanistan. Whenever American retreated their military from Afghanistan.
Originally they are in Pakistan.
No. 1990s Taliban just organized government there. And the 9/11 incident, American troops invaded Afghanistan. And since then, Karzai, are the representative of that government because of American government. But American government supports the government just only take care of only the area of Kabul capital. But almost all areas still Taliban occupy those territory. And now is Trump decided to send military to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
But actually, the American government cannot occupy the Afghanistan countrywide, and the Taliban occupy this country. So Pakistan asked them, Ghani, to accept 2.5 million people is accepting to the Afghanistan. But this is ridiculous, and Pakistan did know that, and so whenever American military retreated from Afghanistan, and Taliban will organize the country, and that time 2.5 million Taliban were going to accept those people in Afghanistan. But now it's impossible, right? He
I
knows
was going
that.
to take to Habib in trouble and say, I know that you're all for the return of refugees, but really 3 million people by December of this year, is that practical?
That is not practical.
Oh, December means Pakistan government forced them to send back to Afghanistan the end of this year.
Practical.
Last year.
In Afghanistan, and that is not practical.
So what happens to these people if you do get 3 million people back in Afghanistan?
Both the countries are going to press for it.
Right, let's give
They're going to
Habib a
fight,
chance.
and that is why I say the international community, the United Nations, the UNHCR in specific should come and contribute and support this process. But
is that
whether
happening?
we are ready for it,
Are you getting enough help from international
we are hopeful, yes, we are hopeful, but look at it. The
okay,
Pakistani
hang on, Hassan, we'll come to you. Let Habib finish the thought. Briefly, Habib.
The Pakistani establishment has been extending their residence for the past few years for about 6 months, 9 months, 10 months. Let me make my 2 points very clear that the Pakistani establishment has been using mainly 3 tools over the past 15 years to pressurize the Afghan government. A, refugees. B, transit. 3, terrorism. Transit has been solved up to a lot of extent with the opening of Chabahar port. Refugees issues is still there and terrorism is still there. I mean, I was a refugee back in 1990.
Okay, what's your second point?
Like I say, cats do not catch mice to please God. I was taught in a Pakistani refugee camp J for Jihad, while Pakistani kids were taught J for Jackal. I was taught A for Allah, while Pakistani kids were taught A for Apple. And this is where radicalization of Afghani refugees in Pakistan started. As the former king Ziaul Haq stated it, that Jihad-e-Pakistan defy Afghanistan, where if you support the jihad in Afghanistan, Pakistan will be protected.
Okay,
so
okay, you made that point.
Started
You've got 2.5 minutes left. I want to give a chance to Hassan.
When it started backfiring, they started registering it.
All right, Hassan, go ahead.
There is a misconception. I think Pakistan is not forcefully sending these refugees back. Even
it means when the refugees come to Pakistan, they will more
Radicalized.
But today there is a statement from the governor of Khyber.
But they don't seem sorry, Hassan. They don't seem to be leading on the
it is a voluntary process.
The UN voluntary program has repatriated
extend
5,000 since January. How can we expect 3 million to go in the next 6 months voluntarily if only 5,000 have gone to the first?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying today. The governor of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, he has said, there's a news in the newspaper yesterday. He has given an interview where he says that we may extend this December 16 to further 6 months. And I think this is the way that the government is trying to tell the refugees that, as my friend Habib said, that they are refugees, they can never be Pakistani. So the government is giving them a space gradually that your time is finishing, please go back. But they never know where there is an arrest of the legal refugees. This totally voluntary. There is a statement from the Prime Minister, a statement from most of the political leaders, even the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf chief, Imran Khan, and all the religious parties and all the nationalist parties. They are convincing the government, and the government has agreed that there will be no forceful return of the refugees. They were,
Naveed wants to, I think we've got 60 seconds left, and Naveed's angling to get in, so go ahead. 60 seconds.
UNHCR is spending $200 billion a year, which is far less. $200 billion to repatriate or educate or give them money to go home. It's not realistic. The thing is, until Kabul really starts thinking about these people as human resource, the issue will not be resolved. There is no plan in Kabul as to how these people will come and be located in their places. Reconstruction will start. Secondly, the rhetoric against Islamabad is being used to punish the refugees. Pakistan will not realistically be able to let them go.
All right, we are out of time, my friend. Sorry, we will have to leave things there. I know we could go on discussing this, but perhaps in another episode. For now, let's thank our guests very much here in the studio, Naveed Ahmed, Habib Wardak, and Hassan Khan. And thank you too for watching. You can see the show again anytime by visiting our website.
Okay, this is the refugees. say something? This is kind of sort of things happen all over South Asia. Okay, even Bhutan the same.
This is really important for us to learn now for any future refugee to come to Japan.
Oh, Japan is never accept refugees.
But still, there'll be, we already have illegal immigrants, sneaking in. Right?
Very few.
Still, maybe very few, but it's there. And
talking about foreigners, okay, Japanese people, ordinary people never accept foreign people who cannot speak Japanese, right?
Right.
So even if government accepts people,
it's not even who can not speak Japanese. Yeah, actually, who's not Japanese, they won't accept. Even half, people who grew up as a half and have some tough time, even quarter have tough time.
Problem is, in Japanese cases, problem is not refugees. Japanese cases, problem is many Chinese came to Okinawa and illegally overstay there.
Yes.
This cause, the Chinese will occupy Okinawa.
Yes.
Japanese government cannot handle it. This kind of risk we have.
Yes.
But refugees, Japanese, even if Japanese government accepts them, but Japanese people will not accept those people.
Right.
Right? As you know.
Yes.
Like Indonesian people, Philippine people, and nothing for nursing, they came over here. 200, 300 people came over here, but Japanese ordinary people didn't accept them because they cannot speak Japanese, right? And Pakistan people, the color is not yellow, right? Brown.
With the Philippine nurse, I don't know. Well, some are not accepting, yes, but also Philippine nurse has, from what I read in the article, there's a problem of the nurse not committing to the work environment she was assigned.
Oh, nothing issue is Japanese government problem. They didn't give them extension of the staying.
No. Well, the example I'm talking about is this nurse was assigned to Tohoku area, and then in Tohoku area, they want to keep her, right? Because she's a human resource, but she was offered a job, or she found a job in Tokyo, which is more money. So she said bye-bye to Tohoku, she moved to Tokyo.
But they couldn't stay not more than 3 years because of without their passing certification as nursing exam. But almost 100% couldn't pass nursing exam.
Right.
So that's the reason they forced them back to the Philippines. But in Japan, is next 10 years, our country is aging society, so we are insufficient helpers to support aging people. So we need 100,000 people in Japan. This case, what Japanese government is going to do? This is very critical issue. Government seriously to consider instead of refugees. And I think overseas people, we need to invite them. 100,000 people next 10 years.
Well, that and also more investment on AI technology.
Oh, even if AI technology, but all people cannot handle it.
No.
Robot AI.
I'm not talking about person to control the machine, but or like.
Of course, I agree with that.
Automated, with automated system.
Yeah, but I think next 10 years we need 1 million people. The shortage of people, even if you're going to get support for AI and robotics, but we need 1 million people, not nothing. It's the helpers. We need, and this case is I told here before, we need to Japanese government to prepare some free trade zone for people, and some prefecture somewhere northern area of the Japanese prefecture, and they're going to prepare some area for non-Japanese living there, and without the passport, Japanese visa, and they can stay there. So I think we can accept 1 million people there, and also aging house.
Just like from
that's right. Yeah.
But did you know? The one village or one town in Gunma, where over half of the unemployment is based on immigrants.
Really? I don't know that.
Brazilian immigrants.
Brazilian immigrants?
Yes.
Oh, really?
They moved, and so because city mayor accepted them, right? They moved, but then problems, they don't work. Instead, they collect.
Why they don't work?
I need to read the article again.
What is their living expense? How they're going to handle it?
I don't know. Rely on unemployment.
Oh, okay. The second, third generation, they can stay in Japan, and they can get visa, whatever they want, even if they don't have a job. It doesn't matter. But how they're going to get money?
I don't think it's illegal because city mayor.
The Japanese gives them visa. Brazilian, Japanese Brazilian.
So that's legal, but they need to work so they can pay taxes.
But I tell you, this case is, I think, 1 million people. We need to give them some specific free trade zone area and take care of aging people or Japanese old people, right? Otherwise, we cannot sustain. How are we going to take care of aging people in next 10 years, 20 years, right? My mother is still in care house, but now is okay. But age of my age, okay. All baby boomers getting older, but Japanese people cannot take care of those people, right? Oh, you're looking for some information? Okay, how the feeling, Somaya, how do you feel this, refugees? What is your opinion?
Into Japan?
No, this is Pakistan. This kind of sort of things happen in Turkey. 3 million refugees from Syria to Turkey. And actually the 1 million people moving to Europe. They caused a lot of problems. And what he said is, okay, 3 million is Pakistan, Afghanistan to Pakistan. But he's talking about, okay, moving around in Asia. What kind of issues we're going to have?
So, I have a question. Does Pakistan government what does Pakistan government do or dare to care of the refugees? So 3 million is very huge number, and the period is 30 years, and so long so that what government do?
Okay. Pakistan government understand. They cannot force them back to Afghanistan because Afghanistan territory is actually Taliban occupied there. So they try to force them back, but they cannot. Right? This is Kabul government. It's Kabul. They can't take care of, and also they cannot get money. It means, okay, force them to back, but they can't get money. No way, even if they force them back, but they cannot. Right? So that's the reason Pakistan government take care of those people. No way.
Give free education.
Yeah, this is basic reason is American government created kind of situation. They're sending troops and occupied Afghanistan, but they don't take care of infrastructure, everything else. They spend money only for military. This is a problem. Even if there's 3,000 soldiers there, but they just only spend money for military, for battle, instead of infrastructure. Actually, Afghanistan, they don't have infrastructure, education, and food, and healthcare, nothing there. So this is, even for them to kick them back, it means kill them. So Pakistan government can do that. Right? So this is refugees issues, very serious issues. And they have, Afghanistan is not rich country. I told you this is a GDP per person 1,500. It's very similar to next country like that.
$1,500?
1,500. Very poor, but still they are no way to take care of those people.
These countries between Pakistan and Afghanistan is not so different. But how do you think about the Syria refugee to go to the Europe?
Oh, okay, okay. Syria case refugees Europe is very close. But Afghan people or Pakistan people refugees cannot move into passing through the Middle East to the Europe. No, it's impossible. That's the reason they can do that. Okay? So refugees, nowhere to go.
How do you think about the Syrian refugee to
Okay. This is a serious issue. Okay. Syria. Okay. Middle East, Syrian war, civil war, we're going to settle very soon because ISIL disappeared. And this case, the Syrian government is Bashar al-Assad. We're going to ask them back to Syria. Syria country itself not bad country. Okay, but this is just a strife caused by United States. So if America will not involve anymore, so Russia involved. So it means Syria will going to be stable as democratic country and refugees going back to Syria. No problem. But Afghanistan is still American government involved and they try to focus on stealing resources and emerald, everything else because Trump tried to steal everything from Afghanistan. So refugees cannot go back to Afghanistan. Right? No infrastructure. But Syria is different. Russia will go into a strong connection with Syria, not like America. America is
also the program, right?
Very, it's like Libya and killed Gaddafi because of the American want to steal oil from Libya. Sort of things America always invading the Middle East, but still they try to keep it like that. Afghanistan like that, same. Syria is different, completely different. America retreated. Now Russia is occupied. So Russia will going to occupy Syria, and Russia will not invade Syria. So Bashar al-Assad will going to be considered. And also they are going to ask for Japan for the investment for Syria. Now is ISIL disappeared.
Yeah, but what are they going to do with Kurds?
Oh, Kurd is the other issue. Kurd is now they're talking about Iraq Kurd, but Syria Kurd is they don't talking about that kind of independent. But Iraq Kurd is they cannot announce independent because all country, including Russia, America, every other surrounding neighboring country against it. So Kurd if going to against Iraq, they're going to be defeated by Iraq military.
That's why
they cannot get support, but they just wait.
That's why U.S. has been secretly supporting.
No. U.S. is not kind of kindness. They always, always betray Kurd. Kurd knows that, so they are strongly force them to try to focus on independence. They just observe for Kirkuk. Okay, Kirkuk is big oil field, and that was occupied by Kurdish territory beforehand. But now is Iraq government take Kirkuk. It means without Kirkuk, the Kurd cannot be independent. They're losing any financial background anymore. So the same as Spain. Spain also, that as you know, that they discard independence because major company moving to Barcelona to the Spanish capital. It means they cannot survive. The same, the Kurd is the same. No finance background. Without any finance background, they cannot be independent. What we're going to do. This is a big major reason.
So Turkey. Not Turkey. Iraq has the oil.
Yeah, no. Kirkuk is originally Kurd. Kurd.
Right. But
originally, right? Iraq occupied that last month. So no way to be independent. Okay. So today is just we finished the brutal presentation and also we show you the refugees in Pakistan, 2.5 million. And next week we might be the city of fear. Fear means in Pakistan, Baghdad. Baghdad is once every week or once every other week they have terrorists and suicide bomb, and they killed many people killed. So it's still now undergoing. So I'll go and show you the long video, but this is very interesting.
So it's not
jihad. But how come they're going to do that? But this is a Pakistan Taliban or Al Qaeda. Many kind of organizations try to terrorism in Baghdad. In Baghdad, yeah, Baghdad. But this is incredible. So next week I'm going to discuss about. Then I want to get into the Myanmar, Aung San Suu Kyi next week. Okay. So any question?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much today. Go ahead.
I have an opinion.